Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amy. I am a mum of 2 boys and really happen to love books. So if you want to see some bookish content on this cosy little corner of the internet, then please consider subscribing. It would be wonderful to have you here. I am so sorry that I didn't upload at all last week. I had a reading vlog filmed, I had a lot of clips filmed, and then my youngest son, he is 7 months old, he got super sick. He got a really bad stomach bug. I can't pronounce it for the life of me. Gastroenteritis, I think that's how you pronounce it. Vomiting, it was projectile, it was awful. So that was my top priority, was making sure he was better. So I ended up just impulse deleting all of that footage because I was like, there is absolutely no point in putting any of this out because I can't even edit any of it because my little boy is so poorly. So he is much better now, thank goodness. And then last week we got back, today is Tuesday, we got back on Saturday. We went away to see my family for my birthday and it was so well needed. I got very spoiled for my birthday. I am now 27. I'm on the final countdown to 30 which is I don't know how I feel about being very close to 30, but I do have a book haul coming because I got lots of books as presents. I got some books to treat myself, and I do have 3 more on the way because then they decided to wake up at 4 AM and I thought, let's look at some books, and there was a set of 3 for a really good price, so I bought them. But that's for another video. In today's video we are going to do my June wrap up. This was a mixed bag this month. I had some pretty good ones, but I also had some meh ones. So as always, let's start off with my Storygraph statistics for the month of June. Also, before we get into it, I'm really sorry for the lighting. I was so tempted to put my main light on in our bedroom. It's mid-July almost, and it has been raining. We have had thunderstorms. It's been ridiculous. I just want a little bit of sun. The sun that we did get burned me horrifically, but I just want it back. I want the sun back. So let's hope that we have a nice summery August because this July has just been awful. So I'm really sorry for the lighting if it seems really dark. I'll try and edit it as much as I can and make it a bit brighter, but if I can't, I'm super sorry, it's really dark in here. So Storygraph statistics, they're a bit messed up this month. It's not showing all of the books that I've read, but I've read 6 books equaling 1,802 pages. My moods were tense, reflective, emotional and dark. It's a pretty even split of everything, to be honest. It's only showing 3 books for pace, so I've had a mixed bag of everything, fast, slow and medium. I've had 4 books, 300 to 499 pages, and 2 books which were less than 300 pages. All fiction again this month, which is pretty standard. I don't think I'm going to read that many non-fictions this year, and that is fine. Genres, I had fantasy, young adult, thriller, mystery, LGBTQIA+, romance, horror, historical and graphic novels. I had 2 physical books and 4 digital books, so I had 4 arcs through NetGalley to read this month, and my average rating was actually 4.25 stars, which is pretty good actually. That's very surprising. I thought it would be a lot less than that, but we've had mostly 4 stars, actually an equal amount of 4 stars and 5 stars. We've had 2 4 stars and 2 5 stars, which is pretty good actually. That's a pretty good reading month. So let's jump into all the books that I've read this month. So I didn't actually read my physical books until the end of the month, so we'll go through the main arcs that I read this month, and the first one is a limited edition Murder by Lauren Elliott. I rated this 3 stars. I think the reason why I rated 3 stars is because this is part of a series. I think this is like book 9 in the series, so there were parts of this book that I didn't understand because it had a lot of characters and a lot of plot points from the previous stories, and I didn't understand the references or anything like that. So that's why it made it a bit more difficult to read for me. So we follow Addie Greyborn, and she's been living in a tiny Yorkshire village for a year after she didn't flee, but she left America. She left her ex-partner and has just started afresh, basically. And she works in a cosy bookshop. Now, the cosy vibes of this I absolutely adored. I think it's called Second Chance Books and Bindery. I'm pretty sure that's what the book is called. It is on the cover of the book. So if I'm wrong, you'll see it on the picture of the book. So she thinks she solved a lot of mysteries in the States, and she thinks that is all behind her now. She's moved to this quaint little village, and then one day she's out walking on the moors and she finds a body. And then that sends her on another little mystery solving adventure, and it involves a limited edition copy of Wuthering Heights and a very beautiful and expensive necklace that seems to have a lot of history behind it. I did enjoy parts of this book. There were parts that I did really enjoy, like the coziness of it, the description of the little village. Being from the north of England myself, it did give me that sense of home that I do miss quite a lot now I live in the south of England. Just the way that the atmosphere was described, and like the cobblestones and the little tiny cottages, that made me feel so cozy and so nice. But I think the overall plot of the book, again, because there were certain parts that I didn't understand, I felt like it did need a bit more work, and there were times where I just felt a bit bored with the plot. So it wasn't awful, but it wasn't great. So 3 stars for A Limited Edition Murder. So the next book is another arc I got through NetGalley, and this was a 4.5-star read, but it was so close to being a 5-star, and it is The Resurrectionist by A. Ray Dunlap, and this is about body snatchers, or as we know them now, grave robbers, in modern day. And this is based in Scotland. So we follow James. He's a very highly strung aristocrat from Bristol, and he has decided, after trying lots of different vocations, that he wants to study anatomy. So he decides to travel to Edinburgh, to one of the most highly credited anatomy schools in the country. And he leaves his entire family behind because of his vocation and his want to be part of the anatomical field. He has been led to believe that the stress caused to his family caused his father's death. So he feels very guilty, and he has a lot of duty on his shoulders, being from an aristocratic family, to kind of settle down and marry and have a family, but he doesn't want to do that, so he flees to Scotland anyways. And once in Edinburgh, he gets into Dr. Malmstrom's anatomy classes, and there he meets Aneurin. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, Aneurin, who is the assistant to Dr. Malmstrom. He then gets given an opportunity to work for both of them, and it ends up being body snatching or grave robbing, because back then you couldn't get cadavers from anywhere. You had to basically sell them. So anatomical schools bought them, so people could study the human anatomy on a real cadaver or a real corpse. We have 2 very special appearances from Burke and Hare in this book, who were very, very, very famous body snatchers in the 1800s, and James ends up going into a world that he did not bargain for, and there are lots of things that he did not bargain for, including a little bit of romance as well. So there was so many things in this book that I loved. There was a sense of coziness as well about this book. It is set in the 1800s in Edinburgh, and it is mainly set in like the autumn winter time, at the start of a school term, so September all the way through to the next year. So again, this was a book where the atmosphere was just so cozy, and the descriptions of it, it was very whimsical, which I wasn't expecting. It was very beautifully and poetically written. Considering it's a book about a body snatcher or a team of body snatchers, it's not what I was expecting, but I still loved it nonetheless. There was a mix of everything. There was action, there was adventure, there was a bit of romance, there was suspense. I just loved it so much. So if you like historical fiction based around the idea of body snatchers, Birkenhair, that kind of realm, then I would definitely recommend this. Another arc that I got this month. Now, this was a very slow burn book for me. I didn't think I was going to like it at the start, and it was Cursed Under London by Gabby Hutchinson Crouch. I ended up rating this 4 stars. Again, the start of the book was very slow, but there ends up being a lot of found family in this, and by the end of it my heart was so full and happy that I couldn't not give it anything less than a 4 star. So we follow Lazare, and he is a French sort of vampire. He is cursed, but he doesn't know what he's supposed to be. He doesn't have fangs like a vampire, but he has these humongous wings that are very overpowering and domineering, but he doesn't know really what he is, and he's been given the gift of immortality. So if he gets killed, he still comes back, and that happens with a lot of cursed beings in this book, cursed individuals. And he ends up finding another immortal named Fang, and they also end up befriending a dragon named Amber and a pharmacist named Nell, who is already an existing acquaintance of Fang's. And an adventure forms when they find a fae child, or a half fae at least, while they are trying to hunt for some fae weaponry which they believed has been illegally smuggled. But then they find the child, and their adventure begins to try and take her home. So there are 2 realms in this story. There is Upper London, I believe. I didn't write it down, but there is Deep London and Upper London, and this is set in the Tudor times, so the Elizabethan times, so in the times of Queen Elizabeth I. There is also a talking goose in this book, or I think it's a goose or a swan, some kind of bird, and she is part of like a secret service for the Queen. So Deep London is where all of the cursed individuals live, like vampires, zombies, dragons, and then Upper London is where mostly humans are, like that's where their abode is, but there are like talking geese. If they work for the Queen, then they live in Upper London. The found family in this was just beautiful. I absolutely adored it by the end, and there is going to be a second book, so I'm very excited to see where the journey with Lazare, Fang, Nell, Amber, and this little bubby, I'm so excited to see where it goes. So I may even get a copy of this myself, and then get a copy of the second book when it comes out, because I did actually really end up enjoying this. So this is sort of a reread, but sort of not. I read this about 5 years ago. I think it was either the year before me and my husband got married, so 2018, or the year me and my husband got married. I got this for a Christmas present from one of my old friends, and I read it straight away, but then I forgot most of the details about it, and I actually didn't read any of like the author's notes or the foreword or anything. I just jumped straight into it. But I decided to reread it again, and this was such an emotional book. I bawled my eyes out, and I actually decided to read the foreword and the author's note, and it made me bawl my eyes out even more. And it is The Crow by James O'Barrs. This is a graphic novel. Sorry, I'm getting pins and needles. So this is a graphic novel, and this is the inspiration for the 1994 film The Crow, which is my favourite film of all time. This is an emotional journey. This is very dark, very dark. There is nothing really happy, about this graphic novel, but it is beautiful. The story behind it and just the artwork as well, like you can't really see, but it's very 90s. I think this was written in the late 1980s, I believe, but this is such a sad love story. So we follow Eric Draven and his fiancée Shelley, and they are both brutally murdered, and Shelley is also assaulted. But then a year later, on the year anniversary of their deaths, Eric is brought back by the Crow, who is kind of like an ambassador for the afterlife. He brings Eric back to take revenge on those who wronged him and Shelley. And it is just a brutal story of revenge and redemption and also forgiveness. There is also, because this is the special edition, there is a part in this story that wasn't included in the original graphic novels, which has been put in this one, and it is about Eric forgiving himself and knowing it wasn't his fault, he couldn't have done anything, but in order to forgive other people he also has to forgive himself as well. And this was just a roller coaster. It's even more emotional than the movie, I think. I find the movie emotional as well because obviously if you haven't heard about The Crow, the main actor Brandon Lee, he was accidentally shot on set with a prop gun and he actually ended up passing away. So that's sad in itself. But I always find books a lot more emotional than movies because your mind kind of creates an image in your head, and this was actually based on an experience that the author himself had. His girlfriend was killed by a drunk driver because his insurance had lapsed, and he asked his girlfriend to come and pick him up instead of getting a cab or walking home. So he carried a lot of guilt for many, many years over the death of his partner, and that's obviously where The Crow stemmed from. So this was an absolutely fantastic read. I rated it 5 stars because it's just such a thought-provoking and emotional journey reading this book. I would recommend reading this, but be prepared because it is gory, it is violent, and it is very, very sad. But I still loved it nonetheless. Next is another 5 star. This was another arc I got through NetGalley, and it is Silent Sister by Megan Davidsar. You guys, this was a journey. This was such a good book. I was not expecting it to be how it was before. So we follow Maddie and Grace, and they are sisters. It's believed that they're twins, but they're actually not. They were born 10 months apart, so there's only 10 months between them, so they're in the same school year. They get to do everything together. They end up going on a seniors trip together, but they have grown apart as sisters over the years. They've found new friends, they've hung out with different people, and they just don't talk to each other that much. But then when they are on this seniors trip, Maddie ends up going missing, and she is unfortunately found dead. And suspicion ends up on Grace because she can't remember much about what happened because she has a big head wound on the back of her head, which has obviously caused concussion, leading to memory loss. Over time, Grace starts to remember certain snippets of what happened that night, and then all these pieces start to click together through the span of the book. And the twist, my mind was blown. I've never seen a book that has written a twist like that in so beautifully and eloquently, and it's just so simple. You never would have guessed the twist, and when you read it, it's like, oh my god, I did not see that coming. This was 5 stars. Absolutely fantastic. I will definitely look at some other of Megan Davidsar's work because I love this book. I loved it so, so much. And the last book that I read, this was 4 stars, and it is Medusa by Jessie Burton. I'm not going to lie, guys, by the end of the month, I was really, really struggling. I was in a pretty bad reading slump, which is why I reread The Crow, because I thought if I read some short stories and short books, it will help me get out of this reading slump and get me back into like a rhythm of reading. So I picked up this one. It's a little novella and it is a Medusa and Perseus retelling. It's only 180 pages, so I finished this in like a day and a half. I probably would have finished it in a day if I didn't have 2 children, but I do have 2 children, so reading does get a bit more. I can't do reading sprints because I don't have time. There is always a child who needs me, or I'm doing housework. There's just so many different things. But I finished this in a day and a half and I rated it 4 stars. I did thoroughly enjoy it. So we obviously follow up Medusa. This is written from Medusa's point of view, and she lives with her 2 sisters, and all 3 of them have been cursed by Athena and Poseidon. And they all live together on this island. It's just them 3. No one else can find them until one day Perseus rocks up in his boat and her life changes. She realizes that she has never seen another man since her assault by Poseidon. So Poseidon did assault her. She went to Athena for help, and in turn Athena cursed her to say that no man would ever look upon her, because she didn't agree to what Poseidon wanted. This book was so sad. It was so sad knowing what Medusa went through and how misogynistic it was back then, and how like the men were always right, and it was just, it annoyed me so much. And then Perseus comes along and she hides herself. She still talks to Perseus and they form this friendship and they believe that they've fallen in love with each other, but they talk behind like rocks and things like that, and it's just so sad because she doesn't want Perseus to see her. It tugged on my heartstrings a lot, and it was a very quick read. I just feel like it could have been a little bit longer, and maybe some more details from the myths could have been added in. Because I remember watching the Clash of the Titans movie with my mum, and this is not like it at all. But that's what retellings are there for. They're there to give different aspects and different points of view of different stories. So yeah, this was 4 stars. I did thoroughly enjoy this. I just wish there was a bit more oomph added to it, because the end was very cut and dry and that was it. So I do just wish there was a little bit more added, but otherwise it was a very enjoyable read. So that was all the books that I read in June. I feel like this was a pretty good reading month, like I said, so hopefully July is even better. We are on, what are we on? The 9th of July, and I've only read 1 book, so hopefully I can get back into the rhythm of reading a bit more. But yeah, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you want to stick around, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!